Hello everybody and welcome to my channel, Fertility, Hope, and Healing. My name is Dawn and I'm a licensed acupuncturist and fertility coach, and I have helped couples for over 15 years achieve their dream of having a baby. So today, guys, it's a special video. It's actually going to be in two parts, but it's my own personal story, how my fertility journey has led me to where I am here today. As I tell you this story, I really want to encourage you guys that first and foremost, the majority of you will not have to go through what I have went through. Let me say that, number one. And secondly, my story is a very good testimony of that in the end, guys, things will work out okay. Things will be good at the end. Just know that wherever you're at in your fertility journey, in the end, it will work out, okay? Most of you will have a baby, the majority of you, I would say 98% of you will have a baby in your hands. And however that happens, we don't know, So that's just the difficulty, because a lot of this is out of our control, and then there's a lot of things that are in our control too. So, just to go and give you guys a bit of a background, even before I got married at age 23, I was in this auto wreck outside my athletic club in around 1993. And I ended up a year later in 1994 diagnosed with a chronic illness called fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. I had never heard of this before. It wasn't well known in the 1990s. Just so happens that in our town, there was the foremost expert in the country who actually had the condition himself. And I was able to go to him and get a proper diagnosis and prognosis. And along with that, I gained a lot of weight, guys, because with fibromyalgia, your body's under so much stress and adrenal fatigue that you become allergic to your food, and you're not sleeping well at night, so it disrupts a lot hormonally. I gained quite a significant amount of weight, between about 75 to 80 pounds within a year and a little bit more later. It was a lot of weight. And I would drop 20 and then gain 40, and I'd be like, what's going on? And I just puffed up, and it was a part of the process, because I realized that when I went to the support group about it, a lot of women and that were in the support group, most women have this instead of men, but there are some definitely men that have it too, but it affects more women. They, like, more than half of them had weight issues, and so it causes weight loss resistance. A lot of times it's a real big struggle. So for me, getting diagnosed with an incurable, painful condition that you have pain, exhaustion, and insomnia all the time, you don't sleep too deeply, that alone was bad. But the obesity one just put it up off the mark. Here I was in my 20s, I'm just starting my career, and I'm out dating, but when all that diagnosis happened, I just so happened to meet the love of my life, my husband Michael, and we ended up getting married in 1995. So I had just turned, in that summer of 1995, I had just turned 26 years of age. Within just a few months after we got married, we moved here to Phoenix, Arizona from Columbus, Ohio, and started our journey, as a young couple. And shortly within our journey, even before actually we moved out here, we decided for me to go off birth control. I was put on it about 6 months prior to getting married by the suggestion of the gynecologist I was seeing, because my periods were a bit irregular, had become irregular. Now, they weren't irregular before fibro, but they had become irregular, and that's typical too with stress, and meaning that they just didn't come like clockwork every single month. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I never kept track of them to begin with. But I ended up going off birth control and had my first pregnancy. I don't want to call it scare, but I just got married. I wasn't planning on getting pregnant. We were going to use another form of birth control, and I started feeling pregnant, and I knew something had shifted, So I went to work that day, and I asked the women, how did you know that you were pregnant for the first time? What was the biggest sign? They're like, oh, my breasts hurt. I'm like, oh gosh, I think this is what's going on. So on the way home, I bought my first pregnancy test, and it came up negative, and I was actually quite relieved. And then about 5 days or so after, maybe a week after that, I had my period. So I was probably about almost a week late, 5 to 7 days late. But I was assured when the pregnancy test came out negative that I wasn't pregnant, right? Never thought much about it, you know, from that time onward. But I was told early on when I was diagnosed with this condition that it may be difficult for me to have kids. I wish I never had heard that from the doctor. Also, I had a tipped uterus, which is not a big deal. A lot of people do have it, but it was so tipped, I kind of had to tell people when they were looking for getting, you know, my examination, my yearly, like, it's to the left, you know, look there. And some people had really difficulty finding it. So I'm like, wow, it must be really tipped, you know. And by the way, in my second video that I'm going to do, I have a solution for tipped uterus, so be sure that you watch the next part of this video if you have issues with that, because it actually can be treated, believe it or not. Not in Western medicine, but in alternative medicine. So anyhow, a few years after we're married, we decided to start trying, because I wanted to have at least one kid before I was 30, you know, and we were just like, we'll have 1 or 2 children, whatever, and we so wanted a baby girl. That was just our biggest thing, our biggest dream. We came up with names, you know, for right after we got married, we just knew we wanted to be parents. And so we started to try, and trust me guys, I had no idea what it was I was doing, okay? And I just said, oh, I just know it. It's like around the middle of the month I'm ovulating. I wasn't taking ovulation tests. In fact, we were doing a lot of things that were wrong, a whole lot of stuff. And we were, you know, just our chances of getting pregnant were going down by some of the things that we were doing, you know, like using lubricants or, you know, that weren't for trying. So, and we didn't understand that. But I came out to Phoenix and I kind of like felt more dry down there. So I felt like I need to use that. And like I said, I wasn't keeping track of ovulation. I was just like, oh, it's 14 days after my period. We should try, you know, and who knows when I'm ovulating. So needless to say, it didn't work out. We didn't get pregnant. So after a couple of years of just off and on kind of trying and not knowing what we're doing, you know, I end up going to the Mayo Clinic out here in Arizona, which is really a great place to get tested for fertility. And we got a full workup with a fertility endocrinologist out here. And guess what? There was an unexplained fertility issues. Like, they don't know, you know. But one thing that did happen shortly after I moved here, this first summer I was here, is my period stopped for a few months. I had gone through a very stressful situation with my job and had to leave that position and was out of work for a few months. So that was stressful. Michael was working 2 jobs until I could find another work. I found work that I didn't like. It was horrible, guys. It was horrible. I had to quit that after a few months. Finally finding a job at America West Airlines, working there full time, which that alone too was stressful also. But it was just a lot of stuff going on, and my periods just were irregular, but for a few months it stopped. And so I went to the gyno and they put me on the birth control to get them regulated again. And within a few months, it's, you know, right away it started actually. Within one, I did orthotricycline. Within one course of that, it started. And so I was on it for about 3 months, didn't feel the greatest, but that's all they recommended, that I would do it for 2 to 3 months and go off of it. And I was fine. I started having my period again. So then after working in America West for a while, it happened again. But this time, instead of doing the pill, I thought, you know, I'm going to try an alternative. So I found this book on herbs and tried an herb called Dong Guai, which happens to be a Chinese herb. They also know in America they call it Dong Quai, but it's actually Dong Guai. It's Angelica, and I went out for a couple weeks, and within 2 weeks my period came. I'm like, what in the world happened? That's really cool. And then later on I discovered progesterone cream and started using that. And with those 2 things, my period came all the time, not knowing what was going on, okay? And then of course, you know, getting tested, and they're saying everything is fine except for the fact that you do have a chronic illness that is causing stress in your body, and that you are overweight. I'm obese, you know, so I hate that word, but that's what I was diagnosed with, you know. So, but it was not impossible, you know, it's not impossible to get pregnant. Now, there was an issue on my husband's end, and that was easily fixed. Within just a few months, he went back to normal. So, and then we later treated that with him taking supplements, change in diet, a lot of stuff, okay? really easy fixes. But for me, there was no explanation, which is really difficult to do. But after going through that, what we said, you know, because before we had talked about this, which was really smart, if you're engaged and getting married, talk about these things with children. Really, really important, because a lot of people get divorced over this whole situation if they have problems or if they never wanted kids, you know. But basically, we had talked that if it didn't work out, we would adopt, you know, and we would actually go through the foster care system to try to adopt. So that's what we did. We started going through the foster care system. We got approved. It took us a few years. It was, again, that was kind of stressful. And right before we were actually going to get placed with our first child, I made a decision that was the best decision of my life, and that was to go into school studying Chinese medicine. So we decided to put the whole child thing on the back burner. We ended up moving into a new home, which is the home we're here at, which is now 20 years that we've lived here. And yeah, we put it on the back burner. And so I entered into Chinese medical school in 2002 for a 4-year program, 2 masters in both Chinese medicine and acupuncture. Okay, so guys, I'm going to end it right here because we're already 10 minutes, almost 11 minutes in. And stay tuned for part 2 of what happened, because this is the part where it gets really, really good overall. And yeah, things start getting better gynecologically and so on and so forth. All right, guys, if you like this video, part 1 of my own fertility story, give it a thumbs up. Comment below if you have any questions, all right? And if you need support, we have a community called Fertility, Hope, and Healing. We would love for you guys to join that community. And subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the second part of this video, guys. All right, I wish you lots of love and baby blessings. I'll see you next time.